Yes, yes, yes. How you doing? How you doing, Jonas? You okay?
I'm fantastic, fine.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
You too, you too. I had to make this small adjustment about equipment today because we're doing a major renovation. So
Yeah, yeah. I've
I
been
hope
seeing
I
your.
hope sound is all right and the picture.
Yeah, it should be all right because do you know what, Jonas? We're going live. We're going
Yeah.
live straight away across YouTube. So, it should be okay. I'm not hearing any problems at all.
Oh, cool. Let's do it.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. So, welcome to another episode of the Mic Drop Club with your host Douglas Hamidi Shea. Back in the house, we have Jonas Freud, all the way from Sweden. How you doing, Jonas?
Fantastic, fantastic. And
Brilliant.
I've been missing you.
Oh, ditto. Oh, ditto. No, very kind. Very, very, very
Yeah.
kind.
Uh, so you had mental health week in UK?
Most definitely. This is why we're talking today. Especially this is Mental Health Awareness Week from the 10th to the 16th of May. It should be something that is worldwide. I'm not sure if there's a coordinated approach to the Mental Health Awareness Week, but certainly it is one that warrants us to have a conversation around our mental health and what can we do to spot signs that we are going downhill. How do we pick ourselves back up? You know, and also how do we support other people who are going through mental health? And I was thinking the other day when we first started talking, um, we done a lot on mental health. Remember the sessions we did about the workplace.
Yeah.
So I just wanted us to go back, to go forward, to see if there's anything's changed. COVID is still here with us, although we're slowly, in the UK at least, coming out of. Sorry, really? We're slowly starting to get back to some sense of normality. Anyway, in the UK, I'm not sure about where you are, but what sort of things do we need to put in place to ensure that remains the same?
Um, I believe um, I believe that you really, really have to get into yourself a little bit deeper and reevaluate or evaluate what you have and what you want to have in the future. What you're going back to, like it's not going back to the office. You're going to the office, and
Mm,
and that's a mindset as well. Like how you talk to yourself. I'm going back to the office now when you got vaccinated or whatever. But for me, it's most important to really decide and commit and act about I'm going to the office, not back. I'm going to the office or whatever. I'm going. So you
okay.
moving forward.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Mm,
I like that a lot. Um, the operative word is back. I think as you're speaking, the way you're using the word back is in a way of demonstrating that looking backwards is not what you're supposed to be doing, you know, which is very important. I like that approach. I teach that as well, by the way. Um, in the
yeah.
UK, we had elections, and
Yeah.
one of the campaign, Dominic Cummings was in head of the campaign to leave the EU, and the slogans that he used were to remind the British public, right, of a time when they were not in the EU. So, so it was always take back control, to take back control, as if the past they had more control over their laws and jurisdictions, who comes and leaves the country and all that kind of stuff. So when we use back, and if you take a look at Donald Trump's campaign, how he got into government, how he became president, he too copied a lot of that philosophy about the back, and his slogan was "Make America Great Again." Again, this is like as if in the past it was greater than how it is now. And so when we are talking about going back to work, it is, and I'll talk with you, it's not about assuming that it was better back in the day. You need to make a commitment. You're going to work now. The past is a ghost. What you make of your experience at work, you're in control of. You're not in control of anything that happened in the past. It's already gone. But all these people falsely believed that in voting for a certain president, the country will return back to how it was before. It didn't happen. The UK has left the EU, and we're still waiting to see if we are going to be returned back to a state where we have more control. So all of these things, I believe, are a distraction. This whole backward looking. So as you said, making the commitment to move forward is a very profound and very liberating way to think, but it requires another C, which is the courage, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So the courage, what we talked about, I believe.
So you're cracking up there, Jonas. I think I've lost you for a second. Right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring myself back in. Jonas, if you disconnect and come back in. Right. I think we've lost Jonas there. What we were talking about was I'm going to disconnect him. He was going to join back in. We're talking about, there he goes. Let's see if that's even better. Let's see. I'm clapping, but we can't see you, Jonas. You still there? Okay, just technical difficulties for the time being. Let's see what we can do in the meantime. We're talking about returning back. Let's see what you're doing. That's better.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, you're there. Okay.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. That's fine. I should be able to see you now. There you go.
There
you go. So we were talking about returning back to the office, and
So go to the office, and the courage, the C, the second C, is like, once again, when I talk to the corporate world as well, we need to adjust the policy or the workflow and so on, because we will have a hybrid work situation. Some of the people really want to work from home at least 1 or 2 days a week. And how does the corporate manage that? So we have been talking a lot, some companies, like, do we need to rewrite, relearn, reskill our organization about coming to work? Because it's gonna change. Like, some of them coming to work through the screen from home, and some of them are going to the work physically. So that's the courage. Do we just continue as usual business, or we gonna rewrite actually the workflow? So that's, I think it's gonna be key within the mental health, but also the performance.
Sure. Because again, you're so right. The performance when you apply any change to any situation, you tend to find a dip in performance until you find your footing. Then you can start accelerating. It's like changing your operating system or changing a new way of doing something. There's a dip, isn't it, in performance while you're getting understanding what's happening. I just hope the corporate world has enough flexibility to enable the workforce to go through that dip before it can spring back, because it's learning a new way of doing things. Yes, it's relearning, but it's still new. It has to be approached as a new situation. Before COVID, if they had children, the children would have been 1 year younger. Now they're 1 year older, and they've seen mum and dad in the house together. Now going to work is now another adjustment. So it's not necessarily just the employee; it's the system that supports the employee, the friends, the family, the environment. There's been a lot of investment. Some employers have put in place so they have the right equipment in their house so they can work. Equally so, I can understand why some organizations are really keen for employees to return back to the physical office. They've invested sometimes millions of pounds in these office blocks, and their contracts are still live, and they're paying for nothing effectively if nobody's in them, just paying for maintenance. So you can see why some organizations are still hell bent on saying no, still come in to work. And where this, I think, impacts on mental health particularly is around performance. When I do coaching, I'm very outcomes driven with my coachees. We agree what outcomes are going to be measured, and then I hold them to account for those outcomes. And in work, pre-COVID and post-COVID, I would say outcomes are going to be different in terms of performance at work. There's some organizations that have seen their outputs increase in terms of productivity is increased. Some places might have gone down, but either way, those markers, those indicators for performance need to be reevaluated based upon the here and the now. What can you do with the 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, 8 to 6, Monday to Friday, being in the office or not in the office? What can you do? What does your performance outcomes look like? They need to be appraised and reevaluated again.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And I mean, it's so many key factors that I believe in how you can restructure all the workforces or the labor market, because you see the traditional 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 work, because of a situation that many people will continue work from home, so they don't need to commute. And I think it's also a really perfect time for corporate to rethink of hire more people to get into the labor market, because we can do more in less time. And so I believe it's going to be a really interesting time after the summer. Hopefully, the most of the world will have vaccinated and so on.
Sure. And it's a stressful time. Let's put it out there. As it's Mental Health Awareness Week, change can be stress-inducing because we're dealing with the unknown. And there's uncertainty with things that you're not sure about. And typically what we do when we're uncertain, we stop. We evaluate, we do a risk assessment. Is it more risky pushing forward? Or is it better that I stop or retreat back into the cave and hide? So a lot of people who are going through this transition without support, they are going to see and feel their mental health starting to decline. If not directly, their loved ones might be going through that, and they need to figure out how can you support somebody who's going through a challenging time with work. What are the things that we can do to support somebody that we feel is struggling?
Yeah, and I think actually we're hitting the last C that we were talking about, the consequences. And I believe as well, when I reflecting about the consequences about this, is like, if you do not invest in mental health and mental strong now, you will be you will need to pay the bill in the future if you don't invest it in your employee now, or your personal invest in yourself. You're gonna pay the bill afterwards with the problems that comes without investment in yourself. And I read actually just before this show, I was into the UK Mental Health Week, and the theme was nature. And it just hit me like, in 1995, I was hanging around and living in Japan, and learned by that people how to live in Japan as a farmer, as a tea farmer. And, you know, we went to the woods like for every day, but without saying it's like it's good for your soul, because everybody knew it. We just did it. But nowadays, it's like a woods bathing thing in the world. And like I told you before, I'm living on the countryside here, so I still are heading to the woods every day, and I really can feel the soil, the trees. I mean, when I hug a tree, I actually can feel the vibration and so on, because I have been hugging so many trees
Yeah,
in
yeah.
my day. so so it's kind of really amazing that you can have like 30 years later, like a theme in UK with nature. So
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good point because in the UK, at least in the urbanized areas in the UK, lockdown, the COVID has demonstrated the inability to access nature, fresh air, has been acute. People living in high-rise buildings, not able to go out, it definitely impacts on your mental health in a very negative way. In terms of supporting people going through that, like techniques, what I'll share one advice I always give people in around the mental health is be busy. Just be busy. There's something that I've learned from my experience working in mental health, um, is when somebody is in spirit, inspired, working hard at something, whether it's manual labor or anything, as long as you're busy, um, depression tends to not coexist with busyness, because depression, for example, in mental health, takes away that energy. So you got no energy to do anything. You're lethargic, you want to sleep, you want to isolate yourself, you want to hide, you don't want to talk to nobody, you're miserable, you're upset, all of those things. But if you're busy, it's a hard thing to do, be busy doing something and at the same time being hidden, at the same time hiding, at the same time being angry, if you follow my drift. So there's something about doing, there's something about digging deep, helping somebody to dig deep and find something that they can just do repetitiously, and there's something that we know around, particularly around depression, is over time it will start to go down. But what do you do to manage whilst it's still there? You got to be busy. It will be going down anyway in the background, and that way you're not focusing it on the illness too much. It's going to go away of its own accord, because some of these depressive episodes, their triggers are born out of real situations like loss of job, loss of grieving, somebody died, somebody close to you passed away, not being able to achieve your goals, all of these things, but these are real things to individuals who are going through that. But there's something to be said about processing that hurt whilst you're busy, opposed to processing the hurt and being still.
Yeah, it's really, yeah. I love that tip. And I mean, for me, it's my pro tip is like more about like to schedule to schedule every day that you have that 2 minutes that you can have that 2 minutes every day to just be sad or depressed or anxious, whatever it is, but you only give your life 2 minutes a day. So if the depression or anxiety comes up in the morning, if you decided every afternoon, 3 o'clock, I got 2 minutes of that, only that. So then you just need to train and practice to just tell yourself, like when the thought comes up or the feelings comes up, then you just tell yourself, okay, I will deal with this at 3 o'clock.
Absolutely. I like
So
that.
that's yeah. So you will not spend energy on that. So after a while, your body learns as well. Your mind learns, like it doesn't matter what comes up during the day, because I know that it's only 3 o'clock that I can reflect on that 2 minutes. So
Yeah, and it's
it's helpful
reassuring.
for many people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's good. It's reassuring because you're not denying
Yeah,
a part
exactly.
of you that wants to express itself.
Yeah.
You're
So if you
saying,
just continue to be only busy, I know that it's not the whole truth of you, but if
yeah,
you just continue to be busy, you just push it forward
yeah,
uh,
yeah. You've got to give
eventually.
it time.
And yeah, so for me, I really like to give my clients 2 minutes a day. Then do it whatever you want, schedule it, and decide and commit.
Yeah, because we're going to the three C's there, isn't it? The commitment is so important, and at sometimes when you're at your lowest in life, that's where you struggle to commit to something. That's why I always say go back to basics, and that could be as simple as brushing your teeth, making your bed. These examples. You spoke about nature and the role nature plays in around your mental health, and it's so important. Nature, because everything exists in nature has order, has routine. It does not work outside of routine. No matter if you take a look at what mankind has done on this planet over the last 6,000 years, the wars that is waged on each on fellow human beings, deforestation. You talk about hugging a tree. The trees must be telling you the painful stories that over the centuries. How we've polluted the air, polluted the seas. Killed indiscriminately, made extinct certain species. Yet every single day the sun goes up, sun goes down, the earth keeps on spinning, the cycle of life continues. And my mom told me something about being right, because sometimes some people hold on to and take ownership of the illness to say this is going to control me. And I will say to you, yes, you're right. This is what my mom used to say to me. This say, yeah, you're right. If you say you're right, you're right. But if you're right, being right about something has a time frame assigned to it. You could be right for, say, 10 years. You could be right about something. Eventually, that same thing you're right about will prove to be wrong. If you're in the wrong lane, if you're in the right lane, right? And you're driving
Mhm.
your life, different lanes. They're all in different lanes. And you're in your own lane. And you think it's the right lane. But you decide to stop. You decide to stand still because you are right. What's going to happen? Cars from behind are going to smash into the back of you. But you are right. But you're in the right lane, but the lane is for active people. Lanes are there for movement. The second you stop, you're right, just fine. But things are going to hit you from behind.
Mm.
The earth doesn't stop spinning. If the earth decides to be depressed and stop spinning, we all fall off. Or upset gravity. We'll all be floating into space. But no, it keeps on. The mathematics, the physics of creation is such that there's continuity, and I'm trying to push the agenda for people to remain, to the best part, focused with structure, but being busy. Learning, because that's where the healing can take place. Because when you're busy, you are praying, you are meditating. I've done some gardening over the weekend, and you get into a rhythm, and then as you're gardening, you're thinking through your problems, your challenges, aren't you? You're working out solutions at the same time doing a physical exercise that when you finish, you take a look back at the garden thinking, wow, that looks beautiful. And I've also sorted out the problems in my head, the challenges in my head. I've got a plan now. But if you decide not to do anything and you just stay in one environment, you have not demonstrated to yourself anything yet. It's all in your head. You're not demonstrated you haven't provided proof to the part of your body, to the part of your personality or your soul that needs that proof that you're going to be okay. You haven't given the evidence. And I've seen people struggle with this, where the inner voice is looking for evidence to support the depression, to support the anxiety, to support whatever illness you're going through. It needs the evidence. That's why they always say, if you are going through depression, particularly and anxiety, for example, I'm only picking the common ones at the moment, you tend to create an environment that supports the depression and anxiety. For example, if you're depressed, right, you might say something like this as example. Nobody loves me. I'm worthless. I'm useless. Okay. So inside you is looking for evidence to support that you're worthless. Yeah? It's looking for signs that you are worthless. And guess what happens? You give it the signs that you're worthless by doing nothing. So when the inner side looks out and sees, oh yeah, you're worthless. Your room's a mess. You haven't brushed your teeth. No one loves you. No one's phoning you. That's the evidence it was looking for. And that's when the illness gets a bigger hold on you. That's why if you are like gardening, for example, the garden's a mess when you start. And by the time you finish, it's tidy. That's not the evidence that the voice the inner side of you needs to support the depression. That is the evidence it needs to support that actually I can do something. I'm not useless. I'm not worthless. I am somebody. I can make beauty out of chaos. I can succeed. So I'm constantly saying, just do the opposite of what your inside is trying to compel you to do. Mm-hmm. It's hard.
Yeah, that's one way. I mean, what you're talking about for me when I'm listening is like comparing. Another C, comparing.
Yeah.
I mean,
4 C's.
yeah. And then I continue with contrast.
Contrast. Okay.
Yeah, okay. The contrast about this, like you said, what you focused on, it's getting bigger.
Absolutely.
So so many people focused on the depression instead of what is the contrast to the depression.
Mm.
What is the opposite of depression or anxiety or scared or like everything else? Like,
Mm.
so if I don't want to be scared, maybe I want to be happy.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more like inventory yourself, like you're talking about, I think, and understand about like inventory yourself. Is it true? Like, am I worthless
Mm.
for real? Yeah, maybe for other people I'm worthless, but for me myself I'm not worthless, because if I have built up and trained my endurance to have that believe in myself, and I know what I know and know what I can do and so on. I don't think when people just erase that, what other people thinks about them, because I think it's mostly people who grow up as a young kid hearing so many times, you're worthless, you're ugly, you're like nothing.
Mm.
Then it becomes the truth, I think, because the most people I meet today is like 40 plus and have been doing this as mantra. I'm worthless, I'm ugly for 40 years. Yeah, it's not a quick fix, but when I just ask them, why are you worthless or why are you ugly? Then they only say the first answer. Everybody says that I'm worthless. Yeah, but what do you say? Yeah, I say it too. Okay, so why? So I think it's time to once again, to reevaluate all of that 100 truth about yourself, what everybody else is saying. So
I
then you
think you
can
got something
cut.
there, Jonas.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a list of 100. I mean, I've done it. I tried it with people I
Hmm.
know and my professional clients. It's like easy. Make the 100 list, and then you just attack the first one. I'm worthless, or I have ugly shoes, or whatever the smallest thing, and
Yeah.
then you just rethink about it. Is it true?
Mm.
Ask you like 3 times, 4 times, five
Mm.
times. Is it still bad? And eventually, everybody come to the clue or the answer as, yeah, but when I skip others' opinions and then only have my own, then I can decide,
Mm.
is it ugly or is it beautiful? And the most people buys beautiful things or wearing beautiful things. So
Mm.
for me, it's like so many tip, but I mean, it's not the same cocktail to everybody, but eventually it's the five ingredients is in the mental cocktail is the same for everybody, but it's different amount of the ingredients.
Yeah, and I really really like that 100 truths. There are 100 truths about yourself. You know,
Yeah,
I think when you um break that down in another program, because I think there's a lot to be said about that. It's brilliant. Um, what I wanted to just talk about is if you take a look at what you was talking about, 100 truths, for example, and you talk about evaluation, if you have to evaluate. So there's something about the word evaluate your experiences that gives rise to reflection. It gives rise to regrading, like regrading something. So reframing is another word you could use. You could reframe, because it always goes back down to your value system. You know, I was coaching somebody or counseling somebody who was having a real big problem reconciling their relationship that they had with their father. Really bad. It was causing the young boy depression and all sorts of behaviors that he become very destructive. Fights at school, all of these things. And he said, you know what, it's because of my dad. He was blaming his father for everything. His father was in his life, but rarely showed any emotion. He has, I think, siblings who are high performing brothers and sisters, and he was not high performing in his studies at all. So he always felt that his father didn't love him the same way he loved his other brothers and sisters, right? So he's got all of these issues inside of him. He's 14 years of age, he's very, very angry. He's an angry young little man, So I said to him, if you change the way you look at your father or your expectations of your father, would you still feel the same way you feel? And it was like, what are you talking about? It's my dad. Dads are supposed to be like this. Dads are supposed to be like that. Dads are supposed to be like this. I said, where does that come from? Dads are supposed to be like this. If you judge your father on a different measuring scale, would he still be a bad father in your eyes? If you use a different way of measuring happiness, if you view a different way of a father showing love to you, it's because the way you value, the way you're measuring what your father is supposed to be, he is giving you that result. And it could be the case that for 99% of people, your father is still a bad father, but you won't be able to move forward in your life as long as you hold on to the same way you're measuring your dad's ability to care for you. So we've done a lot of work. Reframing, evaluating, what is your role? What's your expectation? And slowly over time, he came to the realization that even though he was only 14, that his father too is a victim. Because he's a victim of a victim of a victim. His father came to the UK from one developing country where it was only work. And if it wasn't for being clever, they wouldn't have been able to leave the country they came from in the first place. So having that as your father's mantra, education, you can see why the pressure is there. So there's something about reframing, evaluating how we're measuring what success looks like. Because if success for you, if you're depressed, is still to make £100,000, £200,000 per year, you're going to struggle. But if your success now is to just make sure that you remain healthy, you'll be okay. You'll be happy. It's how we process, how we gravitate to certain indicators for happiness, for job satisfaction, for marriage, for raising children, for all of these things. If we recalibrate them around things that are meaningful to us, that actually sustain us in a positive way, I think we'll be okay. There's a lot of stress right now with young people trying to live like they're on TikTok, being, perfect shape. All of these things, the pressures on these young people is phenomenal, causing a lot of mental health problems because they are viewed where they're seen on social media as being, that's what it's like to be happy. You can't be happy if you're obese, overweight, not good looking and all these kinds of things. So mental health, I think, is a really big subject where you cannot take any person, as you said, it's a cocktail. Every person is an individual, and how it manifests itself, the mental health illness, requires a different approach. But I think it should always be based upon one core thing: being non-judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And also, when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about like the difference that makes the difference. And we got a challenge here because no, not what I am aware of is any school in the world having like educational program for students in
Hmm.
young age. Because for me, what I know, every school, the first day in school from like 7 years of age, huh?
I'm
They
writing that
are,
down.
yeah, they are like based on you as your performance.
Mm.
Can't you be better in sports? Can't you be better in math? But your first 6 years in life, you're based on who you are. You're creative, you're playfulness, you're energized. But the first day in school, you're based on performance. And
Yeah.
then just after school, you finished your university, you're going out to the corporate world, you're still based on performance. If you perform this, you get this in salary.
Mm.
If you produce like this, you get this in your salary. So for me, I think it's crucial not to just have it as a on your schedule when you grow up. And I mentor some students in like high school, and when they trained about I am not the performance, I am what I am, then they really perform as a function.
Mm.
So I think it's gonna be very important to actually to do that, like you say, re-evaluate. But how do you do it also? Because when I ask people that comes to me, I'm depressed. Okay. And then I ask, what is the basic you really want to have in your life or doing in your life? What's the basic? I need food. I need drink, water,
Mm.
and I think I need love or happy at least.
Mm.
And then I just need like to see how is your picture of happy, for example. And then they can't focus on that because they focused on the depression. I'm so depressed because I'm not happy.
Mm.
And then I just, okay, if we skip the depression and just look on the happy, what's including in the happy? It could be a father, it could be a mom, it could be food on the table, it could be whatever that that makes it happy. And when people come to that basic insights about that, it's one step closer to be happy and not focused on the depression and more focused on how to become happy, in my
Mm.
opinion, my self
Absolutely.
opinion. So
Absolutely.
it's same like backwards among the 100 list is like start with start with one thing to really reevaluate how it's supposed to be. The same as
Absolutely.
your father story. I mean, yeah, is that picture of the father, good father, the true picture?
Mm.
No, because I only go whatever everyone else is saying
Ex-
about the good father again. So for me again, I mean I don't have my biological birth mother and father. I had my adoptive father and mother, and they told me like you didn't grow in my stomach as a kid, you grow in my heart.
oh, beautiful.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a beautiful thing
Mm.
to understand and hear as a kid.
Mm.
So for me it's not important to grow in the stomach, and it's more important for me to understand that I was growing in their hearts as a
Absolutely.
adoptive parent.
Yeah.
So I think just this picture game like we playing together. We done it in sports pro athletes world for a long time. Like, how is my self image when I based on myself, and what does my coach say and see? Jonas, I can see you are this. Is that the same picture that I have? No. So we are not on the same page. So then, is it my coach who is the right, or is it myself? And so on is like easy to transform it in relationships. Same thing. If you go ask your lovely ones, what is your picture of me? And they're telling you the opposite, maybe. Then you need to reevaluate again. So many of that things is like, it's not rocket science for me, but you need to be curious.
Another C.
Curiosity again. So, and then you need the courage to actually, like, maybe my lovely one has the right picture. So I need the courage to actually adjust, maybe, and then the consequences. So I think we summary the three C's.
Yeah, I think so. The three C's has certainly been prominent in what we're talking about here. Just lastly, and another advice I have, two really. I think I'll let you answer one of them in terms of what can the corporate world do to support people with mental health as employees. What can corporate world do for them? And I want to just leave one last thing. Sometimes when we are feeling very, very low, there's a risk, there's a tendency to go big. To solve that big problem that you've elevated, that you've put a lot of energy, a lot of emotion has gone into amplifying a problem. So it's a big boulder. It's a huge rock that you have in your head, and you walk around with this rock and you cannot move yourself forward. I always say, why are you trying to lift something when you have no energy? You have no technique to lift that big problem. That big problem could be pivoting your career to get a better job. It could be finding a new spouse. It could be having children. It could be buying a car. It could be anything. As long as you're perceiving it to be a big problem, and to the point it's causing you mental health problems, I would say don't try and deal with that problem. Because if you were capable, it would not be a problem in the first place, right? Because you're not capable, it's a problem. So what I would say is go small. Pick something very, very small that you can do that has the highest probability, the highest chance of success. Do that and keep on doing that until you build up the technique, the confidence, the right approach. You then tackle the big problem. All too often people want to go for that big problem, and when you don't succeed in fixing that big problem, what happens? You get so depressed. You see? But nobody's ever failing to brush your teeth in the morning will not psychologically crush you the same way as failing to get over the loss of a parent, recovering from those types of things. So I always say, pick something really small that has the highest probability of success. Do that, succeed doing that, and keep on doing it until you feel strong enough to then do that big problem. Don't go to that big problem first. Everyone runs to that. If I just got a better job, I wouldn't want to kill myself. If I had more money, I wouldn't want to kill myself.
Awesome.
That's what they'll say. I say, okay, fine. I understand that. I respect you for saying that. However, you're not strong enough to get the money first. There's steps that you need to do. A millionaire has to be a penny-aire, 1,000-aire, 100,000-aire before they're millionaires. Go the steps and levels to build yourself up to do that. And sometimes of us, people who have really been at the lowest point, and I asked them the million dollar question. That's how I was trained to call it anyway. And I would say, look, if that problem that you say you have that's causing you to feel like you want to kill yourself, if I was able to get that problem off you, put it inside a Elon Musk rocket, fire it into Mars, and it will never come back. One-way ticket. It's never coming back. Would you still want to kill yourself? You know, it gets people thinking. Are they actually their problem, or is the problem separate from themselves? You know, usually they'll say, "Yeah, I wouldn't want to kill myself because I want to kill myself because of that problem. I want to get rid of that problem." You know, so then you work around approaches for them to have a program whereby the end goal is to be able to reevaluate, reframe, you know, check their value system, their belief system, and then they might realize that was not even their problem in the first place. That bullet wasn't meant. That bullet wasn't even made for them in the first place. You know, why are you running in the path of a bullet when that bullet didn't have your name on it in the first place? But you want it.
Exactly. My point of view as well. Like, you need to see the bigger picture, and the bigger picture you need to chop it down, like you said.
Yeah.
But it's the same. I had the same question. Like, if I give you 1 million, do you want it? Everybody says yes without doubt or hesitate. But then I just say, yeah, but you only live for today. Tomorrow you're dead. You still want the million?
Not me.
And then people start to think, no. So that's, again, the value.
Absolutely.
So it's quite easy, but nobody's working or curious about that thing, like, because you are lazy as a person, you have the most things, so you don't need to think about that more deep things. But if you do that, you're better prepared of whatever comes in your way. So for this example, the pandemic, the people who's mentally trained stronger, they are managing and cope it better than people who is not trained and prepared for this. True. I can tell. So
true.
So what's your second one?
The second one was for you in terms of the corporate world. What do you think the corporate world can do to support employees that are struggling with their mental illness? What things can they put in place or should be putting in place?
I believe you need to open up to really work from it. It's same as what I'm talking about. If you don't schedule it, it doesn't exist. And same is your personal schedule. You're supposed to have a mental time for every day to schedule. Either it's the 2 minutes of depression time or anxiety time. It's same as training mentally. It's same as you go to the physical gym. You train for 1 hour a day or a week or 3 times a week. Yeah, the same amount of mental training you need. And that's what I want to have as well in the corporate world, because the corporate world doesn't really understand that not much of the mental stress is built up on the corporate world, but they gonna pay the price because the most of the mental stress is built up from home, within your living alone in your apartment, or you're living in a destructural relationship, and they bring it into the corporate world, and the corporate world going to pay the price of not performance and sick leave and so on.
Yep.
So for me, it's way back again. Like, if the corporate world invest, they will get return of investment. So I believe they should schedule, the personal meetings. It's supposed to be mental meetings as well. So if you schedule it, then um, you can make something happens about it. So that's what I want to bring into the corporate world, because in the future my only own girls will go out to the corporate world, and I want to be that dad who support and make the best things possible for my girls to have a really good work environment and culture and so on. So I believe invest, schedule.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to round the office, we have a word called parity of esteem in the UK, and what that basically means is mental health should have the same level of funding and support as with physical health.
Mhm.
It's easy to say I broke my leg skiing, but it's
Mm.
harder to make your boss understand that you have depression. You know,
Mm.
one's a hidden infliction, and one's a physical break. You know, and they heal at different rates. You know, so having that parity, so they're viewed in the same light, would certainly help a lot of people going through mental health challenges, as well as teaching it very young. You know, teaching relaxation, meditation, from when they can sit with crossed knees on the floor. They should be learning how to breathe um, consciously. They need to be learning how to reflect objectively, questioning themselves instead of being told everything is this. Because sometimes the clash is when the child is starting to form their own understanding, and it goes against what they were told is. You know, your happy child is told, no, you're not happy. A child that's confident is told, no, you are fat. You shouldn't be happy because fat people shouldn't be happy. You know, all of these conflictions come from when children are not being equipped with the tools to be confident in their own thoughts and to appraise things based upon a value system that they're developing themselves. You know, so
Yeah.
as always,
Yeah,
Jonas.
and what I'm talking about the corporate world as well is like when I lecture on the university students. I know that a lot of university top class students, they have mental health.
Yeah,
So when the corporate headhunting the best student in the class, I tell them, you know that you're gonna get problem if you don't take care, because they have so performance anxiety
absolutely. Yep.
in school. Yeah,
Yes.
and you will deal and pay the bill about that crap. So it's same collaboration as that I want to breach the school within the corporate world as well, because not many corporate people understand that people brings like from home, like I said, like most things start from home, depending on,
Absolutely.
like you said, what we have been talking about, the picture, how it's supposed to be and so on, but it's not true. So that's the take for tonight, I think.
Absolutely. And it's been a pleasure one more time. Thank you, Jonas. We've missed probably 2-3 weeks. We need to get back into the rhythm, but we've done I think we've done a quadruple C. We've done being courageous.
Yeah,
Courageous. It starts with no. I'm curious.
yeah.
Courageous. No, curious. Committed.
No,
Cor- committed.
curiosity, courage,
Courage.
and
Committed.
consequence.
Committed.
Yeah, yeah, committed,
Then
uh,
consequences.
and the contrast.
Being able to contrast, yes. Yep,
Uh,
yep. So no,
So it's many C's.
Yeah, we call it the many C's challenge. So, yeah, you guys be safe, look after yourself and each other. We catch up next week. You take care.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out micdropclub.com and get the show notes and useful links. Subscribe to the podcast. Don't just live life, make life boom.